beside them as they learned to walk this new path, but that didn't last long. After just a short time, I wasn't walking beside them, but I was running to keep up with their progress. We wanted Finn to learn to talk. That boy didn't just talk, he showed us that he has an incredible sense of humor and an uncanny ability to charm anybody who meets him for more than just a couple minutes. We wanted Lila to be a good sister. Lila is not just Finn's sister, she's his ally, his friend, and an advocate for what she believes the world should look like. And if you've ever met Lila, you'll have to agree that she's quite advanced in her advocacy skills. That girl can make her voice heard. Week after week, I watched amazed as this family not only learned to survive, but they began to thrive. And they became an example of what was possible for families. This family has a lasting place in my heart, and their story continues to inspire me. And you guys are so lucky tonight that you'll have the chance to be inspired as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Pat O'Kelley.
Thanks, Richie. He's just finished.
Wow, that was quite an introduction. Thank you, Jen. So, can you hear me? There we go. Before I even start tonight, I just want to say a quick thank you to Tammy Mitchell. Anyone who knows Tammy knows it and knows what she's done for this school, also knows that this is much more than a job for her. This is a passion, and it's a passion for the kids and the families of this school. And I'm in awe. I mean, we couldn't do this tonight without all the work that Tammy's done. You know, we might like to. So, let me get started. I can't tell you what an honor it is to speak to you tonight in a place and in front of people I've come to care so much about. Right now, it's a terrifying honor, but it's an honor nonetheless. I think Principal Chris just asked me to speak tonight because they've lost money on my liquor tab in the last few years. He has completely shut me down tonight. So, as you all know, it's Mother's Day tomorrow. And if you didn't know that, well, guys, don't worry, there is still time, because you know what would make the perfect Mother's Day gift is auction item number 24, Husky Cheerleader Birthday Party. It's coming up. Seriously, though, I just want to say, that being able to spend time here at this school the last few years has been a gift. And it's a gift I owe largely to my wife, Anna. And Anna gets up. Who gets up each morning and works ridiculously hard just so our family can function. And I want to say thank you for that. I know this is hard to hear. When you hear those words come out of the mouth of your kid's doctor, you know your life is about to change. Maybe you see it coming, but you have no idea what you're in for. Our son Finn started here at the EEU 4 years ago when he was 18 months old. He couldn't walk or talk or point or even put a piece of Cheerio in his mouth. He'd be fine, I kept telling myself. He'd grow out of it. And how important is eating Cheerios really? I know this is hard to hear. I knew it was coming, but she was right. It was hard to hear. The developmental psychologist told me that our son had autism. And just like that, our lives were transformed. When you hear those words, all kinds of things happen. If you're like me, you start to fall apart a little. And then you start to ask questions. Big questions. Will our son have a good life? Will he be happy? Will he know love and friendship and joy? Will our son learn to talk? Will he be able to take care of himself? You ask smaller questions. Will our son go to college? Will he have friends? The kind I had? The kind you can stay up all night with, talking, wondering? And then really small questions. Will he be funny? Will he think I'm funny? Will we laugh together? All your assumptions turn into questions, all your hopes to distant dreams, and all your fears become possible. In a way that's hard to explain, you lose your child, at least for a while. The lovable quirks become symptoms of a disorder that no one completely understands. The laughing, singing, arm flapping, and toe walking all become pathological. The impossible beauty of your child's face, a face you've studied since he was born, becomes inscrutable, a mystery you'll never be able to penetrate. His eyes, those sleepy, soft brown eyes, blanks you'll never be able to read. In a way, you lose part of yourself, a part of how you thought, who you thought, and how you thought might be. If you're lucky, you'll find yourself, as we did, at a place like this, among people like this. You'll walk in these doors the day after the diagnosis that changed your life and see someone like Teacher Carolyn Cottom, and tell her the news, and the word autism will catch in your throat. It just doesn't sound right coming out of your mouth, describing your child. These things don't happen to you, to your family. And then you'll watch her play with your son the same way she did the day before. You'll watch her make him laugh, that infectious giggle that gets everyone around him going. And as you fall apart, people here will reach out and catch you. That was my experience anyway. Teacher Carolyn and Teacher Beth and Dr. Jen Fung and Amy and Chris and Brittany and Dr. Eileen Schwartz and Rosie and Ariana and Tara and Lily and Jordan and Lisa, Elizabeth and Lydia and Laura, and the list goes on and on and on. And each one is a hand held out to you, to your child, to your family. They won't lose your son. They won't give up on him. They find him. They look for him in all his crazy laughing, his singing, his goofy obsessions, and they find him. And little by little, they give him back to you. They'll teach him to play, to point, to share attention, to communicate, and hopefully to talk. And if you're very lucky, like me, to tell the corniest jokes you've ever heard. Jokes that leave you baffled and nearly split his sides with laughter and make you remember how much you truly love this beautiful little child. In those first days, all I could do was watch. I watched through the glass as Finn slowly changed. I remember a particular problem he was having with transitions and staying with his class on the way to and from gym. To help, Carolyn and Lily gave him a clapper, something he loved, to clap on his way. I watched one day as the class returned from gym. There was Finn near the front of the line, waving his clapper like he was leading a Mardi Gras parade. He was smiling and I smiled and was proud of how he was making the transition back to class without a tantrum. As they got to their door, the toddler parade took a sharp left, and the kids, Poppy and Jack and Kamal and Ephraim and Tamara, and Fiona and Malcolm, started disappearing into the classroom. Soon they were all gone, but not Finn. He was still coming down the hall, smiling, clapping, alone, leading his own parade. Just little steps. But that's only half our story, because that's only half the story of the EEU. You see, Finn has a twin sister, Lila, and Lila's what's known as typical. Though we and the rest of you parents of typical kids know, there is absolutely nothing typical about her or them. And not only was she welcome at this very special school, but she was essential to its mission. She and her typical classmates are as much a part of this school and just as important as the kids with special needs. So not only did we watch Finn, but we watched Lila grow and develop here. We watched as she learned to take turns and eat snack like a human being. We watched as she cackled with laughter and formed friendships with her classmates, typical and not so typical. And we watched as her teachers facilitated these interactions. And finally, we watched as she and her twin brother truly played together for probably the first time in their lives. The sound of them laughing at and with each other, well, nothing compares to that. Not only has the EEU been a place where Finn and Lila can learn, it's been a place where we can learn and find strength from the kids, from the staff, and from other parents. At Dad's Night, I learned from Principal Chris and Poppy's dad Chris and Steve and Bill and James and Simon that half the things I thought I was going through alone weren't just about having a child with special needs, but were part of being a dad, plain and simple. We shared our joys, our frustrations, and our awe of the terrible, fearsome power of 2-year-old girls. See, that's what we learn here. And that's what our kids learn here. Sure, we learned that everyone is different, but we could have learned that anywhere outside this tent. What we learned here is how much we are the same. And we learned how much we can truly do together. As I walked these halls and looked in through the glass, I felt like this place and the people here gradually gave my son back to me. But I know he was never truly gone. I may have been just a little too scared to see him. If you're hoping for a story with a happy ending, I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you. You see, this story doesn't have an ending, just like this place doesn't have an ending. My story and the EEU and these beautiful children have beginnings. But I'll give you this. Back at the beginning of my story, I asked myself questions about what Finn's life would be like. Last fall, Finn had to stay home sick from school for 2 days. By the third day, I guess the bus driver assumed he had dropped out or died because she didn't stop. So I drove him in. Class had already started when we arrived. As we neared the door to his room, the steps became more springy and his face broke out into a broad grin. He let go of my hand and ran in the door. I followed him in just in time to see at least 3/4 of the class stop what they were doing, look up, and yell a spontaneous, "Finn's back!" I choked up. Finn has friends. And I want to tell you one more thing. If you're lucky, like I have been, lucky beyond words, lucky beyond hope, one day your little boy will come home from this school he likes so much, and he'll tell you quietly in your ear, so quiet you're not sure you heard it at first. He'll tell you something that will also change your life. "Daddy," he'll whisper, "I love you in my heart." So as I look forward to the places we'll go, I can't say I'm not a little afraid, maybe a lot worried. But I have a hope that wasn't there 4 years ago. And I'm thankful for the place we've been, this place, this tent, our EEU. If you keep track of the numbers, you know the rates of autism are staggering. You also know that we're facing a crisis in how we educate, how we live with children and adults with autism and all special needs. Well, this is the place, and now is the time to face it. This is the place, and now is the time to teach the world what the kids here have already learned. The same lesson the EEU taught it about Down syndrome 40 years ago, that we can play together, we can learn together, and that we can live together. And that's why it's so important to keep the EEU strong and to grow it. This place doesn't end at its walls. The children who've thrived here, the staff who've worked here, the students who've studied here, and the parents who've found hope here, they all take what they learn and see with them to all the places they'll go. Take it away, Tom.
Pat, thank you for sharing that story. It takes a lot of courage to get up here in front of 600 people and kind of open up your heart. But I have to tell you, Pat, I love stories that make you laugh and make you cry, and you did that. And thank you for sharing that. As an alumni dad and a father who still has a child here, you see a lot of familiar faces here. And something that Kate Rawlings said in the video really struck me, and Pat said it as well, and that is, you celebrate every day and you celebrate every victory. And we all belong to a fraternity, and that is this school. Because this school does amazing work. Finn is an example of that. So thank you for sharing your story and for the courage and all of the inspiration and hope that this school gives to Finn and every other student. So let's give Pat and his family another round of applause. Last year we raised the paddle to assist our teaching staff in having teacher attainment, because the heroes that work at this school don't make nearly as much as their counterparts that work in the district. And through the generosity of this tent last year, we raised the